Oh, hey, didn't see you there. I took a muscle relaxant a few minutes ago, and I am a little loopy. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to make myself coherent. We're gonna find out. So today I watched Books of Blood. Blood.
It's blood.
Um, it's not good. Didn't like it, but it is a good jumping off point for me to talk at length about horror anthologies. Um, I love horror anthology films. It is my favorite subgenre of horror film, and I know that's kind of a weird trick there I just played to say my favorite kind of horror film is a lot of little horror films squished together. But hear me out. Um, I think that really fascinates me about horror anthologies is when they land on a theme or a concept and they stick to it. You get a lot of really good short form horror. Horror lends itself really well to short form, by the way. It's built on shocks, swerves, twists, so you get in and get out. That's all you need. You don't need a lot of like emotional resonance and that kind of shit. I mean, yeah, there are good horror films with emotional resonance and that kind of stuff, but you don't really need it if you're just trying to spook someone. So, yeah, horror anthologies you get like a lot of really well themed, really like short form horror films that gel together. I really love horror anthologies that can stick to their theme really well. I love the VHS film, the first two VHS films, not viral. Viral sucks. Because their central conceit, their framing device is simple. These are found footage of like horrible things happening. Um, and I really love anthology films where they weave things together into a narrative, sort of. Trick or Treat stands out absolutely, in that it's all the stories take place in the same town of the same night and they intersect sometimes. Southbound's a good example of that one. I love Southbound, and it's a bunch of stories that all happen to take place on the same highway, and characters from one story wander into the next. It's really interesting like that. God, what was I thinking? Even films where like they don't mesh together like that, they still, even if the themes are different, like in some where you're mixing supernatural with like slasher horror, that kind of thing, you still get as long as like the look and feel is consistent, the tone, like the Creepshow movies. Um, like they're all different stories, like in different horror genres, but they mesh together well because they all have the same like campy comic book tone because they're stories from a comic book. The Mortuary Collection is a good example of this one, and then you got like some supernatural, some psychological, some cosmic horror shit, but the tone, look, and color of the whole film, the look of it is so retro and 60s all meshed together. So yeah, I love horror anthology. I went on for a bit there, but I really like how a movie can take these disparate parts and mesh them together into just a moosh boosh of short little fun horror snacks for you. This movie fails to do that. Books of Blood sucks. First and foremost, when I watch a horror anthology, I want a wide selection. I want like at the very least four, three, and a framing device is what I'm after. That is like my bare minimum. This couldn't even fucking manage that. What would appear to be the framing device is actually just secretly the third story. It starts off there, cuts off, and then like meshes back in at the end. It's so awkward at the end where they try and weave these things together, but I gotta think this through before I say it. So, it's three different stories. Um, Fucking two of them supernatural, one of them slasher horror, and the slasher horror sticks out like a sore thumb, and it's the first one. This girl, it. Sorry, stuff on the mic. This girl with misophonia runs away from home and goes to a weird Airbnb, and the people who own the place are creepy, and like it. The first one is really indicative of the problem of the whole film, in that a like 30 minutes in, I was checking the timelines. Like, how fucking long is this? Is this the entire movie? Just this one thing? Was the opening thing just like a weird? Did I watch the wrong movie? did like it get cut wrong or something like that? But no, it's so fucking long, and there's so many disparate parts, and they don't mesh together well. She has misophonia. She is running away from home. There's a bad backstory where like with something involving a boy at her school. There's a dude stalking her, and they don't. They or there's fucking hallucinations with roaches. They technically come together and get explained, but they're so disparate for so long. You feel it feels schizophrenic. I don't know why any of these elements are here. You need to focus. This is short form horror. You need to focus. But the first story goes by and it ends, and we cut to a completely different story. And you're like, okay, cool. So, I got it. We're doing horror anthology. This is basic horror anthology 101. And the second story goes by and it's very lame. It's not interesting at all. It's just a lot of fucking build up to a scare that doesn't work. But here's plot wise. Sorry, didn't mean to plosive right into the mic there. Plot wise, book 2 is essentially the whole goddamn movie. Because spoilers, all three of these sub stories meld together. Like, turns out they all take place in the same night, on the same town or whatever. And the titular Book of Blood is in this one. And, like, the woman from this one turns out to be, like, the main character, kind of. There's so much narrative weight on the second one out of nowhere. So you're watching the second one. It ends. You think, oh, that was just a dumb story. But then the third one rolls around. It turns out the third one was what I thought was a framing device. The guys from the beginning of the movie come back, and now they're doing their thing. And then the third one ends, and it turns out it's directly related to the second one. They're on the hunt for the Book of Blood, and they get there and they find it, and it's the dude from the second one. And so much narrative weight is on these two stories together. The second one, Book of Blood, and the framing device, to the point where the first one sticks out even more because it is thematically different, tonally different, genre different. It's heinous. Third one sucks. It's way lamer than the other two, and that's saying something. But third one's bad. And then third one ends, and we're wrapping around to the first one again. So we're getting some closure there. Yeah, we were all fucking clamoring at the bit to figure out what happened to What's-Her-Face after the most hilarious ending I'd ever seen. I'm actually upset now thinking about it. Spoilers, the first one ends with her fucking just going over a cliff in a car. Like, goddamn Laverne not Laverne Shirley. What's the one with the two women and they steal the car? You know what I'm talking about. Going over a cliff. I'm like, okay, cool. That was hilarious. I love that. I'm glad that dumb story ended in a funny way. But then no, turns out she lived, and we get even more dumb story around that dumb story. And again, the narrative beat of the Book of Blood has been wrapped up now. The second story's finished, which turns out to be the main story. The third story that was so awkward and fucking had nothing to it. It was like 3 minutes of the spooky ghost jump scares and a bunch of rats. Had to be needlessly tied into the first one. Okay. In a way that I said okay like I was going to go on a tangent, but I don't need to. Third story is needlessly tied in the first one in a way that's completely negligible. You could excise the first story from the entire rest of this movie. Lose nothing. It'd be just a bad 30-minute horror film. And then we get all this conclusion to the first story that A, we didn't need, and B, sticks out because, like, we're done. We're done. I didn't need any of this. I don't care about her. I assume she died and was fine with that. It was hilarious when she died. Anyway, yeah, it's disappointing for me to see, because I love horror anthology films, so it's disappointing to watch one and be like, oh, well, that was terrible. But, yeah. God, trying to think. I think the last horror... Okay, I watch a lot of these. The last really bad one I saw was Tales from the Hood 2. Tales from the Hood 2 was so disappointing because the first Tales from the Hood is really, really good. And whenever I try to tell people that, they look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, no, it's hilarious. It's awesome. It's really actually kind of scary. But the name is bad. And then Tales from the Hood 2 made it even harder to say that because people saw that one. They're like, wow, this is terrible. I can't believe they made two of these. I was like, no, the first one's good. Off tangent. But yeah, I love horror anthology films and was vastly disappointed to see that this one sucks butt and ass and balls. Um, yeah, I guess 1.5 out of 5. I'm trying to think. There's some bits that made me laugh. There's nothing really like frightening in it. I didn't care for. Um, no interesting characters. Nothing fun. It just wasn't a good movie. Not a good movie. Not three good movies put together. It was just bad altogether. Bye.